Welcome to the Scaling Japan podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Batino, and on today's episode, we have Paul McMahon.
Yes, thank you for having me, Tyson.
And Paul is the founder of Tokyo Dev, a platform dedicated to helping international developers navigate and succeed in Japan's tech industry. He also created Doorkeeper, a leading event registration platform, and helped launch the Tokyo Rubyist net and launched the Tokyo Rubyist meetup to connect the global Ruby community within Japan. So it's so great to have you, Paul. I've known about you for probably 6, maybe 7 years going on. I've known, but this is the first time for us to actually talk. But could you please start with a short self-introduction, please?
Yeah, so I'm Paul. I'm Canadian. I came to Japan in 2006 on a working holiday visa. I had just graduated from university with a computer science degree, and so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do next. And I had found out about this program where I could come to Japan for a year and work during that. And I was lucky enough to get a job as a software developer at a Japanese company. The company was based in Japan, but it had kind of an international development team. So even though I didn't really speak any Japanese at that time, I could join it. And it had a lot of like really great, technically great people there. So I was able to learn a lot for what was really my first job. And yeah, after a while, I mean, the company was really great as an engineer, but it was a kind of startup that didn't have the greatest business model. And so it became evident that the company didn't really have a future if they weren't going to change something fundamental about it. And they weren't really willing to change. And so I left that company. And with some of my colleagues from that company who were feeling the same thing, we started a consulting company. Um, that consulting company ended up launching Doorkeeper as a product, which I spun out into its own business. I sold that a couple of years back. And kind of during this time, I was also blogging about my own experiences being a software developer in Japan. And that personal blog has morphed into Tokyo Dev over the last 14 years or so.
Before we start, here's a quick introduction to myself, your host. I'm the CEO of LaunchLab. We support setting up a company and back office in Japan. We also provide affordable advisory on raising capital, IPO, and other finance topics. I also run Scaling Your Company that provides courses and sales advisory and digital marketing agency services for the Japan market. If you need help, feel free to reach out. And I think I first heard about, I think maybe from like the second where it's you had a web page, but it's just one page with like a list of jobs.
Yeah,
And it
when
was
I
like it was like 10 or something usually.
Yeah, when I started Tokyo Dev, I mean, I was starting talking about my own experiences being a developer here and going to events held by the Japanese kind of tech community and talking about that. And I guess because I was really the only one talking about that sort of thing in around 2010, I got good SEO for people searching for stuff around being a software developer in Japan. And so what happened was I had one person email me like asking, "Hey, what's your story? How did you find a job here?" And I wrote an article about like how I found a job as a developer in Japan. And that triggered even more people to come to me and ask for more advice. And so, yeah, I wrote more articles on that topic. And at the same time, like because I was going to these different developer events and making connections within the community, I like sometimes heard about job opportunities that weren't being advertised anywhere. And so I had just started a mailing list originally where I just send out an email when I came across those opportunities. There wasn't even like a job board portion of the site because it was really just my personal blog, but I had this mailing list and it grew to a couple hundred subscribers and I sent out an email maybe once every 2 months. And so after a couple of years, it was still this small thing, but yeah, I had um heard people were having success with it.
And just to give the audience some context, in 2006, this is probably like my second or third year in Japan, you'd pretty much not meet any foreign developers in Japan unless they were married to Japanese and the wife brought them here. But like, just someone working domestically, it's pretty much everyone you met was either a recruiter, a translator, or an English teacher. And that's maybe tourism, but yeah, it's
Yeah, it
completely
was
different.
definitely a lot smaller there. I mean, I guess even back then, like soon after I had come, I because the people working at the company were international themselves and part of international community, I think there was like one kind of international Tokyo Linux users group
Ah,
where through that I maybe knew like 20 or 30 people
gotcha. Yeah.
there, but like now there are tons of events. There's 10, 100 times more of us here.
Yeah, it's more of like a common, or at least maybe it's the circle I hang in now. But
Yeah.
so yeah, could you tell us a little bit about Tokyo Dev and your target market and how you help them?
Uh, yeah, okay. I mean, so Tokyo Dev, I was originally focusing on like English speaking software engineers who have little to no Japanese ability and either want to relocate to Japan or are already living here. And so yeah, that was basically myself. It has been the people who I've been most enthusiastic about helping. Just because like there aren't that many opportunities out there. And so, yeah, wasn't much information out about it either. And yeah, I think if you're going that path, you're having quite a different path than like what a typical Japanese software developer in Japan goes by.
Yeah, and really, when you did the blog, there wasn't any content at the time. But I want to ask you, like, what do you think was your secret sauce, kind of like, or your special advantage for creating Tokyo Dev? Because there was, there was Career Cross, there were some other job boards. So major,
Yeah,
like, which
yeah,
were,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely came across those job boards when I was first looking, and I think like at that time at least everything was kind of coming from the recruiting world there. And the way recruiters are just incentivized in Japan or maybe worldwide lends them to be very transactional and very focused on we're going to just place one person, move on, that sort of thing. And whereas I was coming from the perspective of I just want to help my peers here. And so because of that, I guess I wasn't really worried even about like trying to monetize this in the beginning. It was just something to help people. And so yeah, I think that gave me advantage. Combined with, I guess, my focus that I was just focusing on software engineers specifically and not a wide audience there, that I could talk to that audience. I could create like content that was valuable specifically to them and the kind of questions they had, which I think if you're just doing a general job board, it's going to be quite hard to do. Um, I guess like the combination of being a software developer and someone who enjoys writing or communicating is kind of a rare combination to begin with. And it's maybe something that, like, even if, say, one of those old job boards was wanting to hire someone to write an
gotcha.
article about, like, most developers aren't going to want to write an article for another
Yeah.
site about, like, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, no, there really was no blog content. So I think that was kind of like your big advantage, like for stage one, which is the blogging. It's probably no one else would be willing. And if they were willing to create content, it probably would have been just like half-arsed.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like the number one rule of SEO is if you write content on a topic no one else has written about, then you become like number one for the result. And so that's something I guess I've had success with Tokyo Dev, and I guess my previous consulting business also, where we were focused on like technical mobile consulting for Japanese web, like mobile web development in 2008. No one else was writing about that in English, and so like we could be number one. So yeah, I think blogging about a topic or writing about a topic where no one else is writing is definitely an advantage.
And one reason I want to interview for today's episode is I think you've created a business where,
Mhm.
every morning you wake up, it's kind of like or not every morning, but let's say Monday to Friday when you wake up, it's you have a mission. And for me, the thing that has kind of impressed me with Tokyo Dev is you stuck to that mission of trying to really help the developer community. And so
Yeah,
I'll go.
that's definitely been something that's important to me, and definitely like one of the really rewarding things about doing Tokyo Dev is even though like as a scale and the number of people who visit our sites or use it isn't so high in like internet terms, I'm able to see the impact on individuals' lives there, like the each person who succeeds in getting a job through our site or has like read an article and that helps them out and whatnot. Like I can see that it is actually having an impact on people's lives, and that's really motivating for me.
And I think for this, like the stage one on, developing the blog, how did you have to adapt your personality for this stage?
So I guess like one kind of contrast about myself is like naturally I'm a pretty introverted person and kind of quiet, like unless it's a topic I'm really engaged on. I'm not someone who's like wanting to make small talk or something like that. Um, I guess as part of doing this blog and I guess just wanting to be part of the community though, I went and attended like lots of these networking events that were happening, both like within the international community, but
Mm.
also going out to the Japanese developer events where Japanese was the only language spoken by people there. And my Japanese wasn't so great, but I kind of like forced myself to
Mm.
go in that situation. And I think that actually helped me a lot. Just I guess being in a situation where I'm the only obvious non-Japanese person there, let me make more connections because like people were just curious, like, why am I here at this
Yeah.
event? And so I was able to make stronger connections with the local developer community through that. I guess at the international kind of networking events I was attending, there was maybe more people on kind of the business technology side there. And so I would meet lots of people through that. And I guess I found like one thing I really liked doing was like connecting other people at the events. It would like be like I talked to one person who was doing one thing there, and then I go on and talk to another
Ah,
person, and then
gotcha.
I'm like, oh, these two people should meet, and I go and introduce them. And I guess that almost like worked well for me as like an introverted person because it's like now you two can
Yeah, you
talk
can do
and
the
you two
talking.
can
Yeah.
make these connections, and I mean you're having value there, and it just felt good to make that. And that's I guess kind of similar to what I've ended up doing with Tokyo Dev is instead of connecting to people, I'm connecting people and companies now.
And so so I think you dove into like the network community, and how did that help you with Tokyo Dev, or do you find any impacts it's had? Maybe like some
Yeah,
key insights that you got, networking.
yeah, so definitely like networking and part of the community was the thing that I think allowed me to monetize Tokyo Dev once I kind of moved on to that because I had like already built up a community of like people who just knew me, like who were CTOs of say startups here or other people working as an engineering manager or something like that. And so when I was even just a guy with a blog and a mailing list, I approached some of those people if they were like interested in advertising their positions with us. And it worked. They were willing to kind of take a chance on it just because they knew me personally. They saw I was someone who was like helping the community, running events, other stuff there. And so it maybe made them trust me more than if I was just some random guy they didn't know there. So that definitely helped me get my start and scale up the business as well.
Cool. And I think, yeah, this leads a good segue from going from blog to starting a business.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think you made the initial connection, or I think the networking event kind of naturally segued into that.
Yeah, yeah. So what had happened was I had started this as just this mailing list to help people. But I did see people were having success with getting jobs through it. I heard like recruiters are making 30% or more of an annual salary when they hire someone. And so I'm like, there's something between free and this amount of money of millions of yen that companies are obviously willing to pay if they can hire a developer. And so I'm like, let's figure out what that is so I can just charge them basically whatever's the free money on the table that they're willing to give me. That's not going to stop anyone from wanting to post from me. And so, yeah, I just started experimenting with pricing there and asking companies to pay. And again, had these people, these personal connections who I could ask there. And I guess as I got people saying yes to me, it gave me more confidence about charging other people there. And yeah, it just kind of snowballed out of there.
But I think one of the biggie challenge was just kind of like pricing, but could you kind of tell us kind of like a little bit more about your journey experimenting with pricing as much as you can?
Yeah, yeah. So basically with Tokyo Dev, I've never had public pricing for it. And that has been because I kind of want to talk to each customer there. It's not like we have such a high volume of customers even now. There's probably 60 or so companies being listed on the job board actively right now. And so it's not like we're having thousands of customers or something like that.
Gotcha.
And so from the beginning, I guess I was just focused on kind of talking to each customer and I'd make them like an initial offer. I think like the first one I did some fixed fee for hosting that was a relatively small amount of money and uh, then I ended up um, experimenting with strategies there. And I settled on doing a fixed success fee if someone gets hired through the platform. And I'm not charging as much as a recruiter would charge there, but it allows me to charge much more than if I was uh, doing a
Gotcha. Yeah.
fee to post. Fees to post, like if you look at job boards, they're charging $50 or $500 or maybe $1,000 there. And so that can work if you're at really high scale and having lots of job postings on the platform. But with Tokyo Dev, it's had like relatively few postings. Right now, even this far into it, we have like maybe 150 active postings. But back in the day when I was just getting started, it was like one posting a month or two postings a month. And so like it wouldn't be worth it for me to even bother collecting money if I was just charging uh 50,000 yen or whatever there. Well, maybe I could have built it up that way, but the other thing about Tokyo Dev as opposed to other job boards is because Tokyo Dev has been quite a niche focused site, our postings have had a very high success rate
Hmm,
compared to other sources. Like
that's it.
about half the companies who post to us hire someone through us. And I think that's far higher than if you're posting to just some other random job board. Because we have less postings on our job board, we're kind of featuring each one we have more. And so our focus is more on giving our clients a high success rate with using us and keeping the number of clients small rather than trying to scale up
Gotcha.
horizontally and being the next LinkedIn or something that has a million companies advertising on it.
Hello, listeners. I'm excited to announce my live cohort course to help you increase your sales in Japan. Many foreigners struggle to turn first meetings into second meetings because they lack a sales pamphlet that follows the standard format in Japan. Even if you have a good first meeting, your internal contact will hand over your current sales pamphlet to the decision maker, and they'll take one look and say they don't get Japan. My live 4 session cohort course will teach you how to make a sales pamphlet in English using the standard format in Japan. You will receive a sales pamphlet template, more than 10 examples from Japanese companies, and a lot of feedback so you can end the course with a sales pamphlet that gets more meetings and therefore more sales. Getting one extra deal will more than pay off the course, so joining is a no brainer. You can find more details of the course at scalingyourcompany.com/sales pamphlet. And we'll have a link in the show notes.
One thing that I've noticed about him too is that the care that he gives each client is, it is a bit customized. He takes pretty good care of them, and for that reason, a lot of companies have stuck with him for a long time. And like usually, if you just use the service once, you're probably going to use it again. So
Yeah,
rather than trying to get everybody, it's you just get a strong base and gradually expand it.
I think that's also something that in nature of our market is that it is a small one if it's jobs in Japan or Tokyo Dev, just positions for English speakers in Japan is a relatively small market there. And so we're trying to capture as big of the a share of that market as possible. But even when we're doing that, we're still operating on a human scale, whereas where we as founders can be kind of involved in the sales process with pretty much every company who comes through us.
Cool. Yeah, and I think that was a good way of developing trust. Because yeah, I think just like the process is who's going to buy the job ad. It's either the CEO who probably doesn't want to, who doesn't want to buy it, or like the CEO wants to save as money as much as possible, or the HR people, they're let's say sometimes they're a little bit resistant about using money as well, or they may not actually have a budget. So
Yeah, that is like one reason why also we're going with the success-based pricing is because it lowers the risk for the company there. And so that trust issue becomes less of a thing there, like that they can take a chance on us without having to commit money up front, and they only have to pay when they have success with the platform.
Gotcha. Yes, I think you were able to find that nice in between the recruiter fees, which I think nowadays I've heard like sometimes 50% of the first year's salary in some cases.
Yeah, I guess if you're hiring for an executive kind of role, that could be the case.
Gotcha. I've or like for maybe it's more on the Japanese developer side, but I had some friends in the Japanese developer side, and sometimes they like would say like, oh yeah, we even have sometimes they had like it could have been I think it was probably around I think 2019, maybe 2020. So it might have changed since then, but sometimes they mentioned, yeah, we have some companies that would pay like first year salary just to get a developer. I was like, wow, that's insane. But
Yeah, yeah.
and so I guess for the second stage, we're transitioning from blog to business. How did you have to adapt your personality for this stage?
I mean, I'm not sure I changed so much about my personality for this stage of the business. I was still kind of focused on helping people as before. I guess at this stage, though, I started to become more of like a public figure there. Like when I because Tokyo Dev became more well known as I attended events and stuff, people started asking, "Hey, are you Paul from Tokyo Dev?" And that was kind of an interesting experience for me. I I think as an introvert, it actually helped me because people were coming to me with something they wanted to talk about rather than me having to seek them out. And so that's something I've actually found as an introvert can help with like these networking events or whatever is if you do something like give a presentation at an event, it's easier to meet people because naturally they'll want to talk to you about the content of it. So yeah, I guess that's something I started to do. And I guess as I became kind of more of this public figure, I became more aware of kind of the image I'm conveying to other people and stuff like how I behave on my kind of personal social media or whatever becomes more connected to the business there. And so I guess I tried to be aware of that. I don't think it had such a big impact on me
Mhm.
because I didn't try to change things really so much, but I tried to continue to be like this publicly helpful person to other people.
And if you don't mind sharing, like, what were some things that maybe you communicate more about yourself, and maybe if you would, maybe something that maybe you communicated less.
Okay, I guess it's one thing, okay, I've maybe it's just a general rule, but I've tried to avoid like getting into arguments or criticizing other people's opinions or pointing out faults with them or something like that just because it isn't tending to be productive there in the end. So that's one thing I've been aware of. I guess beyond that, I'm not sure I'm really like sharing or promoting more different things there, apart from just being conscious of my business there. So yeah, I don't really
And
have much
yeah,
to add.
I've been impressed with how you just kind of stayed your course. You kept the same mission, the same brand, and and it seems to have worked.
Notice that like companies here tend not to call out their competitors or compare themselves to competitors. And I think as a society, Japan tends to be pretty non-confrontational there. And so I think that is something I've been aware of now with Tokyo Dev is like if I try and be too confrontational with it as a brand, um, it maybe makes my clients like worried about using us or being associated with us. And so I don't think it helps so much in Japan as a company to be really confrontational or aggressive with your competitors. Here, it's better just to let them exist and they do their own thing, you do your own thing. Uh,
So maybe it's the first, yeah. I mean, it's the sec with this new business, and it's what's it? Any lot of things I do, other people will be doing. So like, it's I'm okay with it. But I think maybe that could be the first time like it shocks you to the core, and you get angry about it. But yeah, no, I think that's a good point because I would say like if I were to create a startup again and it were to happen again, I would be less publicly vocal about it. And I think it's just that shock. And like, how do I respond? But I think maybe I guess how I think about it now as like a third time founder is even if they do copy it, it's it should rather than getting focusing on what they're doing, it should motivate you to even make your service even better.
Yeah,
Serve
that's
your
also
community.
why I can't get so mad about competitors. Like as a business, Tokyo Dev has grown every year and it has gotten bigger and better. And I mean, like I'm helping more people there than I ever was before. And so it's not like maybe it'd be different if I had a competitor that was eating my lunch, but so far we've been doing great. So yeah, I can't be so
Okay.
mad.
Yeah, no, and I had a similar thought for one coin English. It's like because people would sometimes ask me like, what do you think about the big Ikai English schools? And I'm like, my first comment was like, I love them. Then like, why do you love them? Are they your competitors? Like, no, because they're advertising on the trade every day, and we can't afford that. We provide a low cost service, so they're helping us tap into this market that doesn't exist and creating awareness, and eventually some of them do find us. And so like yeah, it's like, no, I want them to continue. I don't want to see any business decrease from their end because they're going to open up the market. And so
Yeah,
kind of sorry, I just
I
want to add that as a way of like viewing competition.
yeah. I think for Tokyo Dev also the market expanded so much since I started it, or even started to commercialize it around 2015. Back then, there weren't many companies that were hiring international developers. It was uh, mostly just my kind of peers who were running these small international teams
Mm.
within these Japanese companies, like with foreign founders, or these occasional other positions at these bigger companies. But around 2018, 2019, we saw a big boom in Japan with hiring of international people. We saw like Indeed come into Japan and open up an
Uh,
office here, and they were paying like American salaries for living in Japan. So that was putting some upward pressure on the market. You saw companies like Mercari and Smart News and PayPay have these international teams, like I guess especially companies like Mercari, who started off being Japanese only team and converting to accepting international developers from around the world there. And I guess as companies started to see them succeeding with that, Japanese founders were
uh,
having more confidence to build like an international team from day one. And so, yeah, Tokyo Dev started growing a lot around 2019. Um, and part of that is due to myself and my persistence and a decade of work paying off. But another part was just the market was really increasing there. And I was kind of in the right position at the right time there to ride that wave up.
yeah, and I think that's it's or I think a lot of founders when they think, like sometimes like, or you need venture capital is like actually sometimes just the right place at the right time is in itself a big booster.
Yeah, I think whether you take VC or not is maybe a different thing to me. For the kind of business that Tokyo Dev is now, where we're helping pe international software developers in Japan, that is a good bootstrap business. It would not be a good funded business because it just doesn't have the scale. Then we'd have to be much bigger in scope, and then we kind of lose our advantage that we're focusing on
Exactly.
this small audience. So it works good as this self-funded business, but if it was to be a venture one, it'd have to totally change and move beyond the original mission I had. And then I guess also I'd be beholden to give the investors a return on their investment there. And it moves us away from our core mission of helping people there. So, yeah, that's why at least I've never wanted to pursue funding for this business, at least.
Yeah, definitely. There are just some businesses that it's really suited for. And it's or it's kind of like, or the question sometimes I would get is like, how do you really scale a company? And it's like one is, choose a business model that is venture scalable so you can get venture capital. Or the another method is find something that, like being a couple years ahead and having that infrastructure in place. And when things start to boom, you're just the right person there.
Hmm.
And so I'll put Tokyo Dev in that second category.
Yeah, no, definitely that's how things worked out for me.
And so I guess next I'll like to transition to the next stage. It's I've been seeing different people post, create articles for Tokyo Dev. It seems like you're expanding from just moving from yourself and moving on. I think you're bringing on a team now, but could you tell us about this third stage now?
Yeah, so for a long time, I was running Tokyo Dev as just my personal blog. And then even when it became a job board business, I had like some people who would occasionally help me out on small tasks, but it was basically just me running the business there. And so as Tokyo Dev got more and more financial success with the business, it was like making more money than I needed for myself there. And it was also like feeling like rather than just paying this money in taxes, maybe I can invest it in the business instead there and make it into more of a virtuous cycle, grow the community and the business and help more people by using this money instead of before when I was doing it just by myself, taking all the money out of the business. And so, yeah, that saw me going to kind of building up a team. At the same time as this was happening, we started a Discord community for Tokyo Dev. This was just something I had been discussing with one person who helped me with some of the UX things on Tokyo Dev that we just never had a place to easily talk to the people who were using the site. And at that time, I thought, why not just give it a shot? And so we just launched this community for international software developers living in Japan or those wanting to come here. And it quickly picked up people getting involved in it. I don't know, within the first couple months, it grew to like 1,000 people or something there. And yeah, I think through seeing all these other people active in the community, asking each other kind of questions there, I was seeing that I myself am getting pretty far removed from the experience of the typical person coming to Japan and looking for a developer job here. I'd already been here like 15 years. I hadn't been working at a company as a developer for like over 10 years. And I saw that like also, I mean, I'm a white Canadian male who has had my own experiences there, and that kind of colors it compared to other people who are maybe coming from, say, Indonesia or if they're like a woman or something like that. So I thought I kind of, as I move this beyond my personal blog, it would be good to get more people involved to give more kind of perspectives to the site. And so, yeah, I started by um, commissioning an article on being a female software developer in Japan. And I thought, like, I'm obviously not the best person to write this article, but one of our community members there, she seemed pretty active and a good writer. And so I approached her about writing for the site. And she wrote an article on that topic, which is good. And then she also just happened to be looking for a new job, so I brought her on as a developer at Tokyo Dev, and I also then started using that as an opportunity to get more people involved. Like I think the Discord community has been a great source for that, in that I see people who are talking about some interesting thing they've done, like I had one person who did this coding contest who won a free trip to Japan. And it's like, that sounds interesting. Can you write an article for the site? Or
Yeah, that was
another
really
person who
interesting.
had like taken this test in Japanese that allows you to get a software engineering visa in Japan, and approached them about writing an article for a site about their experience. So like I've been able to get all these different people with these different kind of unique experiences to share them on the site. And I think it's also like grown from just being my personal blog to being almost like this greater community there. And so that's made it easier for other people to kind of want to get involved and want to share and want to kind of help us grow together there.
Very cool. Oh, very cool. Feel free to continue.
Um, so yeah, I guess since then I have continued to kind of look to bring on other people to kind of complement what I'm doing, and it's mostly just been through seeing them like already doing it. Like I had one person in the Discord community who was like almost a self-appointed moderator there, that he was like kind of trying to encourage people to be nice to each other or calling out bad behavior and that sort of thing. So I made him the official community moderator for Tokyo Dev and started to bring him on a contract for that. I've had like other people who have been helping with the development of stuff. And then also things like now that we've been doing more content for the site, like I have an editor who I've brought on board for doing that. And that's been great as well to see like people who can bring skills that like I have some ability at, but they are just so much better at it than me. And that's been quite rewarding for me. Um, it's also been a challenge for me. I have been kind of used to working, like doing everything myself, whereas now I've moved more to kind of a manager role, in that most of my time is just spent like coordinating different people and reviewing different work people have done and stuff like that. And so that's been a new skill for me to pick up. And it's also been like a bit of a challenge for me because I like doing the actual work myself as well there. So like finding the right balance, but it also has allowed me to do far more and produce stuff of a higher quality than I could have done for on my own. So it's been like worked out well for me, but it's also been maybe more work than I anticipated in the beginning.
One of the common challenges I see with my consulting clients is not having any staff internally who can drive marketing strategy and execution to the next level. This really limits the growth trajectory of a company, especially for a leader like you that wants to go from 30 million to 500 million yen a year and does not have the time to spend years learning through trial and error. To solve this problem, I'm launching a marketing agency that can help companies like yours to increase leads and closing rates through SEO, Google Maps, content marketing, and websites that convert. Head over to scalingyourcompany.com and book a free consultation. Let's talk about what your business needs are, where your current strategy is letting you down, and how we can help you see real results with the methods I've successfully implemented at multiple companies myself. Now, back to the episode.
Gotcha.
And I think this is an interesting case where you were the brand. Basically, you were the brand in your transition. But do you have maybe any tips for the audience on like maybe how you navigated that, where successfully moving from you to getting it towards other people and maybe kind of getting people kind of used to that?
Yeah, I
Um,
guess that has been the journey. Like originally it was just like tokyodev.com was the domain, but it was like Paul McMahon's blog there was it. And I guess I've kind of incrementally moved towards it. Like at one point I moved from it being my blog first to being the job board first. And so then Tokyo Dev started becoming the brand. It was still more Tokyo Dev, but I'm featuring myself as part of the brand identity. And I think I'm still keeping that. I'm still emphasizing that, and I'm still quite involved in all aspects there, including like I'm regularly answering emails from our people using the site who have questions about the job postings or even just questions for me about being a developer in Japan here. So I'm still trying to keep myself involved, but I'm also extending it to other people. And I think, yeah, it worked maybe because I had this narrow focus with the site. And so I could bring on other people who are maybe in a similar position to me, also these like international developers in Japan, and they could tell their stories too. So I think there was kind of a cohesiveness about it that might have been challenging if I was trying to pivot to something much broader. Say, if I was trying to be the next Jobs in Japan or whatever, might have not worked so well.
Yeah, and I think that niche, it's because that's actually kind of the challenge I kind of face at my company because it's more we just talk about growth in general. There's the sales community, there's the marketing community, maybe there's like the operations community, or the HR, and because they're all or like recruitment, since they're all scattered, we can't really build that community. Or even with the podcast itself, we kind of just kind of showcase everything, and people what we found is just people know the brand, but they just pick and choose what they like as opposed to like being really involved with every content just because people are so busy. So I think that's so I'll say the advantage, I guess, of our model is if we're not sure where to focus, and you see something that works, you can focus on there. But on the other hand, you don't really get that not commit, but that network effects. And I think at least in your case, like there's been a lot of copycats. I've seen a lot of people try to make their own job board, but really, at the end of the day, Tokyo Dev has survived that onslaught. And I think being kind of the niche, but also having that community is what really made a big difference.
Yeah, no, I think having a community now for the site involved with it is an advantage that can't easily be copied by others. And I think, I mean, one of the reasons why we've been able to build it up in the first place is I've I'm genuine in my desire to help people here, and having a community like this, it's been challenging to like create a safe space for people of all different kinds of backgrounds and opinions there, and balancing desires of other people about what the community should be versus what we think it should be. And it's something that has been a lot of work and at times stress for us. But yeah, it's also been incredibly valuable to people now, and it's not something I think another like big company could easily consciously go out and say we're going to create a community like Tokyo Dev's community.
Yeah, it does create that moat. And so I think we're probably going to transition to a similar one where let's say we have the blog, we already have all the contents. Then the next stage after the contents is community. Because I think that's the logical next step. So I think with my own business, we're going to follow a similar flow as
Yeah.
Tokyo Dev as well. Or meaning like you had your blog and then you had the community. So we're moving similarly where we have all our content for like growth or running a business in Japan. Then the next one is just to create that group for probably small business owners.
Mm.
And let's say with that broad range of content, now we're going to niche down into SMBs.
Yeah,
Where
definitely with a community, it does get a lot easier if you can have a focus there, because then the value proposition of being part of that community is clear. And so, yeah, people are part of our community because they want to talk to other software developers in Japan. But if it was a general like work in Japan community, then it's just too wide a range of people. There's nothing special about it there. So yeah, I see something like yours where you're looking to gather these small business owners. That could be cool.
yeah, if it was just general, if you had the country managers, the or like large corporations, I guess the country managers for the large ones, or country managers for kind of smaller ones, or startups. It's just the topics are completely different. So yeah, it'd be more just SMBs. Some startups may be welcome to join, but I don't think you could have startups and SMBs as a group together. It's like
Yeah, I guess the challenges they're facing are pretty different.
so cool. No, that's kind of it's good for me to hear this because that's kind of the direction we're moving in as well. Yeah, also wanted to also kind of yeah, I think this might be a new experience for some of the listeners, but I guess I guess a lot of the people who are doing projects for you or some of your employees, they're also big fans. So like, all right, like one thing I like to say is like, do you want missionaries or do you want mercenaries? But it sounds like you have a lot of missionaries, and please tell us, I guess, what that's like or
Yeah, no, that has definitely been something when I'm talking to the people about how things are going and how they're enjoying working with Tokyo Dev, and they talk about much like myself that they enjoy being part of something that helps other people and that has uh, clearly visible impact for good, especially um, in a lot of what people are doing working as software developers. It's kind of ambiguous whether or not it's actually doing good for society there. It's definitely making a lot of money, but beyond that, it's hard to directly see the impact you're having. And so that has been rewarding for the people I'm working with as well. And that's allowed me to find like really good, really talented people who want to work with me. And that's been quite rewarding for me.
and I guess and how important is that? Maybe I guess could be just maybe more for you, but like in terms of actually wanting to, run this business long term. Because I think, the blog was 2010, really like 2014 started to 10. So you're making the 10-year mark, which I think not it might actually be single digits. Company actually survived 10 years. And I
Well,
guess
yeah.
I don't know if
Technically,
I
Tokyo Dev's only been a company for a couple of years,
gotcha.
because I didn't incorporate it until after the fact, and it's been a business. Well, yeah, it's been a business for some time now. But yeah, I guess that has also been something I've tried to be conscious of in how I grow the business. I I want to grow it because having something that is just stagnant is kind of boring and doesn't really fit me. I just want things to get better and bigger, but at the same time, I want to be careful about how how I do that and that the business doesn't grow in a direction that I don't want it to. Um, for instance, like if Tokyo Dev was to become like a traditional recruiting kind of company there, I think we could definitely make a lot more in income at least that way. But it means growing the head count a lot of the business. It means maybe moving more towards that transactional style of doing things. And yeah, it would grow it in a way I'm not wanting to do things. And so I've made the choice, okay, we're not going to do that just because it's not the kind of business I want to run there. And so that's been something I've been fortunate to have because it is just a self-funded bootstrap business. I don't have other people to answer to there. And so I've been able to focus on like how can I grow this business and expand it, but still be the kind of business that I want to run.
And would you say you've achieved that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still enthusiastic about continuing with the business there. So yeah, it's been working so far.
And I guess it's kind of a random question, but I guess, as Tokyo Dev expands, is there like any kind of problems that you would like, using, I guess, kind of like your resources help to improve, or I wouldn't say
Okay,
solve, but
yeah, so what we're seeing is the main challenge for Tokyo Dev right now as a business is that there just aren't enough opportunities for English speaking software developers in Japan. Um, that I mean, a good percentage of all jobs are already on the site. And so it's like, even if we got 100% of them on us, it wouldn't grow the business so much more than where we're at now. So what we're turning our attention to now is how we can actually grow the market as a whole there, and specifically how we can help more Japanese companies looking to make the transition from being purely having purely Japanese team to incorporating international members into it. Um, we are still the exact form this is going to take is a bit nebulous, but as a first step, will be probably by the time this is live, have launched a new section of the site that's focused on Japanese businesses who are looking to hire or create an international team and providing them with resources, basically articles about how they can make that transition.
because we have come as different, but it's still in the sense, I think if we can kind of expand our revenues through our marketing agency service a bit, which is going to be the direction we take it. We can kind of funnel that money back into, I guess our long-term mission is how could we reduce the amount of foreign entrepreneurs who fail in their business? And it's probably, so I think there'll probably be some similar, I guess yours is more opening them or getting, let's say, I guess kind of opening minds, but also helping them succeed more,
Yeah.
which can then in turn open the market. And in our case, reducing the amount of failures so there's a bigger market size.
So why did you decide to focus on like reducing failures as opposed to increasing successes?
Gotcha. And I think that's a good, it's because my thought is the people who are going to be successful, like they're just going to find ways to succeed. And like, so a lot of like our clients as well, they're just finding us naturally as well. And so, but it's kind of like, we do accelerate them, but I think the winners win. And so we want to just, of course, help the winners win. But there's also a subset where I think they're we kind of in the middle where they just need a little bit of help. And I think
Okay.
that's kind of the target. But yeah, I mean, I do have a lot of clients who are like some clients I've helped them double, some who have tripled. And it's more like in that case, like I just had to kind of show them just go in this direction or just listen to exactly what I say. They do it and they succeed. But in other cases, I think people have more of a journey they have to go through and kind of helping them through that journey and to find their right path. And
Yeah,
so,
it seems in some ways it's easier to help people become more successful, who are already succeeding, like you're saying, than those who haven't found it yet, and making sure
I got you.
less
Yeah,
of them kind of fail. Um,
or it
yeah.
would be more, I think the winners, I mean, the good thing about I guess the people who win is they'll help us expand. We can expand the revenue. They'll end up paying us more because they're using more of our services. And with that revenue, we can actually create more content to help more of the middle ground. But to yeah, really actually pretty much majority of our customers are in that success side because we can't expand revenue if they're not moving quickly. And the faster
Mhm.
they expand, the faster we can make revenue. So no,
Mhm.
I think that was a really good question. And I realized that actually majority of our paying customers are in that they're kind of succeeding or they're succeeding already, and we're just helping them succeed more. We expand the account, make more revenue, and that helps us, let's say, funnel more money to create content for the middle area. And I guess, and one other thing I'll add is, so I probably, or my first company, I haven't exited yet, but it's successful. It's getting bigger and bigger, and I probably will have a pretty nice payday. So for this business, I'm kind of focusing on making revenue, but also giving back. And I think that's kind of the direction. But I'll say the difference is I think in our direction, we're still a little bit in the struggling phase. We're still developing brand, where I'll say you guys have developed the brand already. So so I'll say from effectiveness point of view, I would say probably your method is more effective or your approach is more effective than my approach.
Well, it sounds similar ultimately.
It is
I
pretty
guess
similar.
it's been rewarding for me to see our clients succeed and grow. Like, there's one that I'm thinking of right now where I helped them hire their first CTO that they had, and now they've grown to like a team of like 40 engineers. And it's been nice to kind of watch that transition and see these, like not only the market expand, but also my individual customers have a lot of success and grow up the team.
And I think from also branding perspective, like if it's so I think that's kind of the challenge with venture as well. But if you just help the winners, like it also makes your personal brand look really good. It's like, yeah, it's all these companies I work with, they're kicking ass. And so I think from personal branding, but sometimes I kind of feel like well, the people who really, really need the help, they're getting. I actually I would say that's a bias. I wouldn't say it's not that they really. It's I'll say both sides do need the help,
Yeah, I
but
guess I have something similar in that the companies I can help the most with Tokyo Dev are the ones at an
gotcha.
earlier stage. Maybe not just getting started, but they have a bit of a team, maybe like say 10 engineers or so on it. And I still have like a direct line to the CTO or someone who's a decision maker who can like quickly
Yeah.
change things. But I've observed with, well, the big companies that are using Tokyo Dev, it's hard for me to have an impact on things like their hiring process or even helping to promote their business just
Uh,
because they have so many different people who have to sign off on things, and no one who can just take responsibility themselves and make decisions about anything. And so, yeah, I guess, well, it's nice to have logos of big companies on the site. From a personal perspective, I like working with the smaller businesses because I can just see I'm having more of an impact on
Gotcha.
them,
Yeah.
not only from like a percentage like of their engineering team that gets hired through Tokyo Dev is much higher, so I can see that impact, but it's also things like just seeing problems with their hiring process and letting them know and see them change it the next day has been cool.
Yeah, no, that's pretty, or I think that's a pretty cool spot to be in where let's say you're making good revenue, but you're also having a big impact as well. Not only just on the talent side, but let's say improving the company's, let's say maybe operation processes as well. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's been one of the things I've just seen being in this space is that hiring sucks for everyone. It's a bad experience for the candidates, it's a bad experience for the companies, and there's just so much that can be improved about it. And it's actually been like a frustrating experience for me that sometimes like I feel like I care more about it than like the companies, just because I can kind of see both sides and see all these things that can be improved. And especially as companies scale up, inevitably they're getting hiring up an HR team, and the HR team's busy with lots of different aspects. But because I'm just focused on this like one aspect, which is basically like job posting to application process, there, yeah, I see there's so much that can be improved, and yet people feel like they don't have time or whatever to improve it.
I mean, I guess that's why that being in that area where they have maybe 10 people and you have that direct line, you can have that influence.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. Yeah, no, it's good conversation. It's and uh and I guess where could the listeners find you?
They can find me through tokyodev.com, but I guess they can also find me on LinkedIn, or I guess I'm still using Twitter, uh, whichever they prefer.
Okay, cool. We'll definitely add the link in the show notes. And yeah, no, thanks for coming on, Paul, and sharing your story scaling Tokyo Dev.
Thank you for having me, Tyson.